Good morning, everyone, or good afternoon. Welcome to episode 123 of the 476ers podcast. In today's episode, we're going to talk about yesterday's game, so stay tuned.
Justice for the blind, just something that'll find in the rhyme that are coming
everybody. It's been a while. It's been a while since I first saw you. And it's been a while. This episode is going to be called Chalk It number 3. This is the third Chalk It. For you guys who don't remember, for those of you who are fans of me, all of you should be fans of me, or maybe you hate me, and that's why you're listening. People hate listen all the time. It's not really anything new. It's what people do. But you could be hate listening. And if you do, maybe you hated my Chalk It episodes previously. The two previous Chalk It episodes, Chalk It 1, came after a loss to the Cavaliers 2 years ago or 3 years ago, whatever, when we had Al Horford on the team, which was obviously a fucking exercise in futility. Chalk It 2 came after last week's Game 7 collapse, and it's really incredible. You know, they say time is a flat circle. Now, look, they say, as in this was said in an episode of True Detective, and then we took it as something that was very, very, wise, which was not a hard word to think of, but I haven't done this in a while, so you're going to let me live. It felt really wise at the time, and it's something smart. It's what a lot of scientists do say it. However, nobody knows what it really fucking means. Time is a flat circle. It's something that you say when you want to feel important. You know, if somebody's just like, oh man, I can't believe my girlfriend cheated on me or whatever. And then you say, it's tough. It's a tough situation. And, as they say, time is a flat circle, man. And you just got to keep trucking. And then that person's like, damn, man, that's deep. That's some deep shit. Time is a flat circle. That means I could be better. I could find a way to be better. This has nothing to do with this. Time is a flat circle because the more things change, the more they stay the same. Last year, Tobias Harris showed up to Game 7 wearing a Miami Vice jumpsuit. He loves short shorts. He loves the shortest shorts he can find. Next year, he's going to show up in a diaper. The year after, a thong. The thong song, Tobias Harris. Just wears whatever. Just be out here putting shit on. Yesterday, he showed up in silk pajamas, which makes sense because he was asleep all game. Never woke up, and it was a fucking nightmare. Dream. I'm only thinking about that song because of Multiverse of Madness. Another song, another thing that ruined one of the main characters in the story, much like the Sixers. Do I talk about yesterday's game? Is there anything to break down? What is there to break down? We broke down. That's what's to break down. I broke down last night after the game. Tears flowing, desperation, smelling, stench of desperation. You know why? Because it's not just that we lost. Losses happen. You can live with the team losing, right? Obviously, there's always the other stuff like how you lost, how you look like when you lose. What was it? What were what things went into this L that you just took, right? And in years previous, and I've mentioned this on other podcasts, in years previous, those losses always, like the year without Horford, that team felt like every loss felt like the worst possible thing because it always highlighted the things that were awful about our team. The fact that Joe didn't fit with Al Horford, the fact that Ben was trash, the fact that Tobias is not good, Josh Richardson, whatever, right? And now here we go, fast forward, and it's the same thing. We're about to embark on the same exact journey we embarked on last summer with Ben Simmons, with James Harden now, the person that we traded Ben Simmons for. Not only did we trade Ben for, we traded Ben, we traded Seth, which stop sign on Seth. I don't, yeah. You guys haven't heard me in a while, so I'm gonna just rattle off all the takes I've had over the last few months. I was on a journey of self-discovery. I had to discover myself again. I go on a self-discovery journey every few months, and when I do that, sometimes I'm gonna disappear, but I'm here. You can hit me up. I'm gonna talk to you about it. You feel me? I'm going to let you know what it is, but here I am. All right? AreYouLost.com. Actually, that's going away. It's just going to be BraunandMind.com. Hit me up if you need help coaching. I got you. I'm going to let you know what it is. Anyway, Joel, hit me up. I can coach you. Teach you how to become a better leader. For those of you who listened to me for a long time, I didn't want James Harden. It's not anything new. James was washed. Now, I want to dispel a couple things because there's been a couple things. I've been watching some of the takes this morning, really just like doom scrolling. You know what doom scrolling is? When you're depressed and then you doom scroll through Twitter to get more depressed. You just eat the depression. It feels good. And that's what I was doing this morning, watching things like First Take, which I hate. I hate every one of the shows. They're all usually wrong. But I wanted to just get the extremes so I can feel less worse, you know, and I just was watching them. There was a couple things that I wanted to get off my chest because I see people seem to be confused. There's a couple things Sixers fans seem to be confused. Let's clear up some confusion about James Harden real quick. James Harden is washed. That's a separate thing. But yesterday's game is not an evidence of James Harden being washed. And speaking, let me just make sure I have I want to watch. I want to look at the box score here. James Harden yesterday is not evidence of James Harden being washed. Yesterday is evidence of James Harden being James Harden in elimination games. He has 2 elimination games where he went 2 for 11 in his prime. Okay, when he was still good, when he was MVP, James Harden 2 for 11 in elimination games. Shot 2 for 11 in 2 separate games. It's really something to see. Yesterday he went 4 for 11. That's impressive. The difference is that in the 2 for 11 games he got more free throws. He can't get free throws because he can't take anyone off the dribble anymore. You know, that's the part that's washed, but ultimately it has nothing to do. Yeah, James Harden in elimination games has nothing to do with being him being washed. It's actually just evidence of the persona of him, of exactly who he is. We knew he was this all the time. If you're confused about that, then you don't know what you signed up for when you wanted James here. And listen, I'm not here to put down any fans, and it's going to sound like that because we're Philly fans, and Philly fans, if there's anything we're good at, is putting other people down. But I'm here to just school y'all real quick. If you're surprised with what you saw in this series by James Harden, you weren't paying attention to his entire career. For the last 13 years, this is what James has been in elimination games. He's never been good in the playoffs. There isn't a playoff moment, to the point that I said the end of Game 4 arguably might have been James's greatest playoff game, because the list of great playoff games for James Harden, my friend, is not a long list. It is a short list. It is the short list. James isn't good, okay? However, James is washed. I know I gave you all of that to tell you why that him being washed has nothing to do with him being bad yesterday. However, he is washed. Yeah, he's washed. I'm going to tell you why. This is the other part that people don't get. 2 things here that I want to school people on. I saw somebody, who was it? I think it was Chris Broussard, who brought up everyone who got drafted in Harden's draft class, brought up Steph, brought up Jrue Holiday, brought up DeMar DeRozan. I want to school you on something. James Harden has, and I don't even have this in front of me, I'm just guessing. I mean, be clear, I'm guessing. And if I'm wrong, somebody correct me in the comments. Not that anyone will, but if I'm wrong, you can correct me. Steph lost 2 years early on in his career to ankle injuries. All right, and he played his rookie year. They didn't go to the playoffs, if I'm not mistaken. Years 2 and 3, ankle injuries. He was out most of those seasons. He didn't play. He hasn't played as many minutes as James Harden, as many games in each year. If you're just looking at length of time that they've been in the NBA, yes, they have been in for this amount of years. However, within those years, the amount of minutes in games that James has played, it's astonishing. And credit to him. He was never injured. The hamstring is the first major injury he had ever experienced. Before that, he was never injured. James is never injured. He played every single game. He led the league in minutes played almost. I think most of the years he led the league in minutes played, always at the top of the league in minutes played, games played, playing deep in the playoffs, right? There is a ton of wear and tear on his body. DeMar DeRozan, another one who has not played as many games. I want to say year 1 he was coming off the bench, and well, it doesn't matter. James was coming off the bench, but he never has gone as deep in the playoffs as consistently as James Harden has. Right, year 2 of James Harden, they're in the finals, if I'm not mistaken. Right? No, that's a lie. Year 4, whatever it is, doesn't matter. When he gets to Houston, it's just an explosion in minutes. Jrue Holiday, oft injured. Jrue Holiday, he missed half a season, I think 2 years ago, for his wife. You know what I mean? His wife was I think she had cancer or whatever. He ended up staying home to take care of her until she was better. And then he came back. But, you know, not to talk about the honor, it's very honorable, but just the point that he missed a chunk of time, right? That's half a season there. There are a bunch of other injuries. There were times he wasn't in the playoffs. Just doesn't have the amount of wear and tear on his body. So that's one thing. The two thing, as somebody who has put on weight and lost weight, I mean, I've moved more weight than the Medellin cartel. Let me tell you something. Just physically off of my, I've been moving. I move rhymes like weight. Who made that? I move rhymes like weight. I can't remember who made that song, but I moved weight in my life. And I'm not talking about drugs. I mean physical fat weight. I have lost weight. I've gained weight. I've lost weight. I've gained weight. I'm losing weight now because I gained weight before. It's what I am so good at. But as someone who is very familiar with this, I know that when you lose weight and gain weight, it never is the same. It never loses the same. It never comes back the same. And on top of that, there are people in this world who are just genetically just have bodies. Like I've met people that like eat pizza all the fucking time, but have a six pack. I eat pizza. It looks like I swallowed a six pack. It's different. We're just different people. Someone like James, his body type is the type of body that when he gained weight to force himself out of Houston, it was pretty much over from that point forward. It was never going to be the same. He just can't. He was already somebody who looked like he wasn't in shape sometimes, and also who didn't have the greatest offseason diet, greatest offseason routine. But if you remember before the bubble, there were pictures of him walking down a mountain. It looked like he had gone. It looks like he was in Wyoming with Kanye doing whatever Kanye does up there, and that he had been fasting. And he looked fucking borderline anorexic. He looked emaciated. Right? That was before the bubble. After the bubble is Houston. He puts on a bunch of weight. That fluctuation, the off-season stuff, then he hurts his hamstring. Yeah, it's never been the same, and it's never going to be the same. The Houston James Harden should not even be talked about because it cannot be accessed. Access is fucking denied permanently for James Harden in Houston. Or there is no such thing. This is James Harden now. That's it. This man cannot break down anybody on defense. He can't break anyone down. He can't take anyone off the dribble. He can't get to the rim effectively. Even when he does get to the rim, it's like he's airwalking. He never jumps. He is just taking steps somehow, but is like hovering above the ground, just barely hovering above the ground, and is somehow never coming down, so it's not a walk. So he's just running. He's just continuously moving his feet, and then he throws the ball up. Sometimes it goes in. Sometimes it's awful. The one time he's jumped this season was against not the Timberwolves. What game was that we lost in overtime? We lost in overtime. Did we lose in overtime? I can't remember. It was a chance to get a game winner, and he got called for an offensive foul. And it was the highest he had jumped in years, I promise you. I've never seen him jump higher than that. The thing is about this, since we're rehashing some points of the season I never recorded a podcast for, I'm going to tell you when I knew that all this shit was over. All right? Was the Pistons game, and I think was the Raptors game at the end of the season after the Pistons game when we lost to them and they didn't have Drew, they didn't have Fred, they didn't have OG, and we lost to the Pistons. And I knew at that point that it was pretty much shot. That's a lie. Let's go earlier. I knew it was over when we played the Nets. That's the game. Before the Nets game, I was sitting here quiet, stewing. I was like, maybe I was wrong. Shit. So no, there was the Timberwolves game. We're out there having fucking fun. At the end of the game, Joel cuts in, and they get an open three-pointer to Maxey, and Joel starts laughing because he can't believe how smart James Harden is. James being and I don't. You guys may not know what I'm talking about, but go back to the end of the Timberwolves game. There is a play where Joel is they're in the zone essentially, which they went into a zone a lot this year, and they would put D'Angelo Russell at the top of the key because he has a great nose for the ball and making plays on defense, even though he was never considered a great defender. And while that team is incredibly fucking stupid IQ-wise in terms of basketball, there was a play where essentially Joe was at the elbow three-point line. Both players are kind of focused on him. He cut in. Both players on that side of the zone follow Joe because they're always following Joe. Maxey moved up towards the elbow for a wide-open three-pointer. As soon as he hit it, Joel was already going back on defense laughing because he knew He knew the play. He knew what should happen, and it did happen, and he was happy that that happened. That was the last good moment. Then there was the Nets game, and that Nets game told us everything we needed to know. It informed us all. Mind you, the Nets just got swept. That informed us about everything we needed to know. One, Kyrie was just in James's chest the entire game. That was one of the craziest things. There was every off on. You know, you do that like, when I play basketball, I do that to certain players too, just to make them feel like, if I know that they're really good basketball players, I want them to feel my presence, right? I want them to feel me. And that's what Kyrie was doing to James because, you know, whatever, I'm not going to jump into whatever shit happened over there, but he is in his fucking chest. He made his presence felt. He locked up James that game. They just not scared of James Harden. That's a big thing. Like, there are times where you move off a player. Like, even, and I'll talk about Jimmy in a second. Fuck Jimmy. I don't like Jimmy. But when Jimmy left, there was a piece of fear in me that's like, that could come back to bite us later. Right? That dude could make us pay for that. There are players like that. Kevin Durant's a player like that. Like, there are players that are like, you let them go and they're going to make you fucking regret it later. James is not that. Like, if we let James go, I feel so confident that we'd have nothing to worry about in the future from him. We would not hear from him again. Or Ben. Ben's another one. Ben, I hope you play basketball again. Honestly, I'm not even here to talk shit about Ben. You guys, a lot of you who listen to me know where I stand on Ben Simmons. I'm kind of I feel a little sympathetic towards him because I do think that he has a bunch of mental health issues and they're unchecked. And there's nothing, what we're dealing with James Harden is similar to this Ben thing, is that when you have people who lack self-awareness, right? Like, these are people who are required to, as human beings in general, this is about to go into my Are You Lost podcast, but as human beings in general, it is required of us to eventually take ownership over our actions, right? Become responsible, take ownership for what we do, what we don't do, right? But when you don't have any self-awareness, you never take ownership. And the way that we measure success in this society generally is money. It's how rich you are. Well, James is rich. Ben is rich. So when you're talking about ownership as basketball players, that's something that's a little bit more distant and only certain players are going to have. Those are the great players. James don't have that, man. He's going to fucking blame everybody else for every single time that they failed. He has blamed somebody else, whether in the media or privately. He's always blaming somebody else. Yesterday, he blamed Doc. Somehow, the ball never got to his hand. Somehow, no comment that the Doc didn't call. But listen, Doc, goodbye. Have a nice summer. You're going to live in L.A. probably. Go coach the Lakers. Do whatever you was going to do. You had it. You did terrific. Cool. And, hey, you should believe in yourself. Way to go, bro. Way to go, buddy. Glenn. Get the fuck out of here, though. For you guys who don't remember, I did not want Doc in the first place. For y'all who don't remember, I'm going to bring that back. I didn't want Doc. I wasn't really happy about Daryl. Let's keep it 100. I didn't want James. And here we are. Let's talk about the game. Danny, your career is over. And it's sad. That's sad. That was really a sad thing. And I actually would not be surprised if that played a little bit of role into Joel's mindset because that looked awful. I mean, I don't like watching injuries ever. And I saw that one a second time, and I almost fucking vomited everywhere. That was one of the worst, ugliest things I've ever seen, especially considering that Danny is so bow-legged. To see his leg collapse the other way is fucking disturbing. You know what I mean? That probably is going to be the end of Danny's career. And that's a shame. You know, nobody wants to go out that way. And Danny drives, as crazy as Danny drives me, Danny's a professional. Like, that dude's a pro. He plays hard. He sucks and he pisses me off sometimes. But at the very least, my man plays hard as shit. He always is trying. So thank you, Danny, for your service here. I appreciate you. We booed you many times, but I appreciate you. Tobias Harris showed up in silk pajamas. I knew game 5 we were going to lose because he had a variation of the same outfit, and then he ran it back with a different color. Oh, fuck. I saw James's outfit, too. James had the PBA bowling outfit, the Father's Day bowling outfit yesterday. Yeah, I knew it was over with those fucking outfits. I'll come back to Joe at the end. Tyrese, Tyrese played really bad the last 2 games, and that hurts me to say, but I'm only saying that this way because I think Tyrese can come back. I think Tyrese has so much potential, and I love him. His smile radiates my day. Great skin, great skincare routine. James, you could take some. The skin above James's beard, it looks just, it's in despair. It's distressed. You know how you can buy distressed jeans? The skin above his beard is distressed. I mean, it's the driest looking skin I've ever seen. It is a walking drought. Tyrese, you need some work. I said 2 weeks ago, I've been talking to a couple of my friends. I told them the thing that Tyrese needs to work on the most is his handle. All right. It's not that he can't handle the ball. It's not that he can't bring up the ball confidently. It's that he cannot break people down off the dribble. Tyrese is very much just he's a straight line player. So it's very easy when you have a team that is just saying that is a fundamentally sound defensive team. The game plan is simple. Square up. Get in front of him and square up. It's almost like setting up a wall on Giannis, but you don't need that much space because Giannis takes up obviously a million miles of terrain within each step, but Tyrese doesn't have that. So square up and stop him at the point of attack. You're going to be fine. Do not help off of him. Make sure that you are square in front of him so that you don't give him a straight line. Because there's a reason why when you're watching Tyrese play basketball, anytime he is isolated at the top, he has to bring the ball back out towards half court, and he tries to get a running start to do something. And it's after a while, no one's getting fooled by it. You know what I mean? No one's getting fooled by it. Tyrese needs some work on his handle to be able to go left to right, to be able to break defenders down and get them off balance and then go. There's no reason why Jimmy should be able to guard you. Jimmy's a great defender. Good for him. Still, he does not have the foot speed and or quickness to be able to stay by you. So there's some work that you have to do. It's your handle. You did incredible work on your jumper. You were one of the best three-point shooters in the NBA. After we left, after James got here, you were the best three-point shooter in the NBA. Continue to work on that, but now it's your handle. I love your defense. I love your effort. I love your heart. God bless you. You played awful the last 2 games. It's fine. Don't worry about it. It happens. Everyone on the team played awful, so it's fine, man. You're great. I love you. I love you to death. Don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere unless we're probably gonna trade you to sweeten the James Harden deal for something good, maybe. But Daryl's a fucking idiot, so who knows? Fuck you, Daryl. Go fuck a calculator. I know you're in there with your calculator caressing the numbers. Oh, that's the visible A/C. I don't know what this button does, but it turns me on. James, awful. I mean, it was. The thing that's awful about James is I was actually impressed in the first quarter. He was chasing Max Strus off screens. He was trying his ass off. He just couldn't sustain it. And in the second half, he absolutely gave the fuck up. You cannot tell me any differently. He throws a couple errant passes, the one that gets intercepted by Bam and jogs back. But it's one of those jogs that people do across the street when they're stopping traffic, and they do that, grab the back of your pants, got to hold it up, jog. It's not really a jog. Actually, you'd walk faster. You would walk faster than if you just did that. If you just didn't do that stupid fucking jog, you'd actually walk faster and get across the street quicker. That's what James did multiple times on multiple awful turnovers, lazy passes, lazy dribbling. There was a sequence towards the end of the third, middle of the fourth quarter where I just was noting in my head just marks on a page of times that he would just immediately pass. He just wasn't going to shoot. He just wasn't going to shoot the ball. He gave the fuck up. I pray that we trade James. If he is going to opt in, man, the table behind me is a mess. Please do not look at that. It's been a while. I did not set up properly. There's keyboard. There's just a couple ones, like I came from a strip club. Xbox controller, a candle, just random wires that are probably tangled. Wires, they just get tangled all the time. That's what they do. They don't do anything else. They serve us no purpose but tangulation. Tangulation is not a word. I pray that we don't pay James. I pray that we don't pay James. That's all I can say. I pray that we do not pay him. He's going to opt in. I hope that we can trade him. I mean, that was as bad of a performance as you could have expected. I kind of expected this to happen, but watching it was something different. He is as bad as they come. I do not want Mike D'Antoni here. I read earlier today that Mike D'Antoni is a front runner for the Hornets job. Please, Hornets, hire him. Please. That would actually be kind of fun. You know what I mean? I don't know if LaMelo Ball is a winning player or not. I have no idea how I feel about LaMelo. None of what I feel about him is confident right now. I just think he does a lot of things that look spectacular, but none of it actually equals a win. But whatever, him and Mike D'Antoni would actually be pretty fun to watch. So the coach doesn't really matter, though. In fact, I've been arguing about James Harden for a while. This idea that, the Mike D'Antoni, James Harden thing. Because Mike D'Antoni's offense was 7 seconds or less. What we've seen from James since he's been here is what he was doing in Houston. He dribbles out 18 seconds on the shot clock before anything happens. He much prefers to slow the game down. He doesn't get out in transition. He's been doing that for like 7 or 8 years now. It's not really anything crazy. So Mike D'Antoni's not going to help. It's just Mike D'Antoni giving him an excuse to have the ball in his hands. But the idea that the ball never found him, or as if plays were not called for him, it's all bullshit. Players execute plays on the court, and they make the decision if they're going to shoot. James has the autonomy. He's been given a green light for the last 15 years of his career, less than 15 years, obviously, but he has the green light. You have never needed to have a play call for you, James. Never in your life have you ever needed a play call for you. The ball didn't find you. That's bullshit. You bring the ball up every fucking time. You isolate. You've been isolating your entire career. All of a sudden, you're not. The ball found you, but what it found was pitch. I don't like calling people bitches, though, so that's not cool. They found cowardice. The ball found cowardice. Someone who had quit already. The ball found you. You just found it better to not fucking try. Did I go through Tobias? Oh, yeah, Tobias. I didn't talk about Tobias. Tobias didn't play yesterday. He didn't play. He's been fooling y'all. He played really well he's been playing really well in the playoffs. I'm going to give him some credit. There have been multiple games where I said, Toby played really well. I thought he defended Jimmy in the first 2 games actually really, really well. You know what I mean? And then Jimmy shat all over him, and yesterday punctuated it with his bullshit, which we'll get to in a second. But yesterday... Yeah, that pretty much just tells you the Tobias Harris story. The Tobias Harris story. Overpaid to give us 6 for 13 shooting, 14 points, 8 rebounds, an assist, a steal, 2 blocks, a turnover. Just a lot of whatever. I couldn't tell you a shot he made. I think there was one post up that he made over Max Strus or maybe over Tyler Hero, I think, and then he hit a corner 3-pointer. I seem to remember that, but other than that, no, he didn't really play. He didn't show up. Matisse. Goodbye, Matisse. I have given up on you. And I'm going to tell you when I gave up on you. I gave up on you during the Pistons game, and I'm going to tell you why. The Pistons game, for me, was a revelation of sorts when it comes to how we look at basketball, right? And this kind of goes hand in hand with a lot of our opinions on Rudy Gobert. But for Matisse, it comes even more full circle because at least Rudy is a great offensive rebounder. When you are only a defensive player in today's NBA, that means nothing. It means nothing. If all you do is play defense, it means nothing. I'm going to go shit on his defense in a second. But if all you do is play defense, it don't mean anything. If you are not a threat offensively, your defense means nothing. You can't even be on the court. That's been my argument against Rudy for most of this time. Your defense don't mean anything if you can't be on the court at the end of the game. Don't mean anything anymore. You saw Joe at his best, right, as pre-concussion Joel, and moments in game 3 and 4 as well, where when he got switched out on the perimeter, it's just havoc. Yesterday, he did it to Tyler Hero. When he gets switched on the perimeter, it's the worst possible situation for any perimeter player. They think, I don't know when they're going to figure out that you don't want to have Joel switched out on you on the perimeter. No other center is like that. Rudy moves his feet okay, but it's still very clumsy. It's straight legged. Joel gets into a defensive stance that looks like a motherfucking guard, and it's incredible. Matisse, against in that Pistons game, Cade scored 30 points, I think it was. Cade was incredible. Matisse was guarding him the whole game. Cade was absolutely giving him the fucking business. Cade, a rookie. Okay, to be clear, Cade is a rookie in this league. He should not have looked so comfortable. Now, maybe Cade's going to be a great player, right? It's possible. But the point is that if you gave up 30, my first instinct after that game was, what's the argument for you? That if you did not play, Cade would have scored 50? Because I don't think that's true. I don't think Cade scoring 50 is likely in the NBA, only because that's not Cade's game. Cade Cunningham is not here to score 50 points. It's not really what he's here to do necessarily. I don't think he wants to score 50. So is the argument that he would have scored 50? Because that's not true. So what's the argument for you? You gave up 30 and you didn't score. You couldn't hit. You don't hit open threes. You don't do anything. You don't finish layups. What are you doing here? You don't make free throws consistently. What are you offering us, Ben? What does all this defense mean? When teams can easily just game plan you out, they don't even worry about you on offense. Your defense means less and less. And it was that Pistons game that I decided I'm done here with Matisse. It's over. When it was decided that he wasn't that he couldn't play in Toronto, I was like, that's probably going to be our best shot. Because at least that means we'll have to start somebody who is a threat offensively. Matisse not being a threat is part of the issue. And you see it. One of the arguments that I had over the last week, and poor George, you played, you had a rough series. I think your knee was a problem because you're wearing that knee sleeve. You've never worn a sleeve all season. All of a sudden you got a sleeve. It's like he has like a donut. The minivan has a donut, and I think it's affected his shot. Not to make excuses for him. I don't know if that's true. Maybe he just played bad because it's the playoffs. George is here to be a backup, so doesn't matter. Sorry, I have some gas from talking all this shit in my chest, not through the bottom. Anyway, that's not the point. That's not the point. Don't judge me. Yeah. Furkan, whatever. Furkan, it's not your fault. Your confidence was shot earlier in the season. It's not your fault. Shake actually played well yesterday. Good for you, Shake. I mean, you were pretty much awful most of the season, but good for you. You played well yesterday. Paul Reed, unplayable yesterday, played you off the court. I thought you were playable though a lot. I thought you played well a couple times this series. Played with a lot of heart. Ultimately though, Joel played the most minutes on our team, and that's kind of crazy because the thing now. Let's get to Joel. Here's the thing about Joe. I'm going to give him I'm going to give him a little bit of free rope. There are some things you need to work on though. I don't blame you for yesterday's loss. I do think you tried. I think he was exhausted. I think when it comes down to watching yesterday, Joel falls all the time. So when people were asking why is he falling, I'm like, oh, because that's Joel. Joel falls. But when it really came down to the amount of times he fell yesterday, I thought was indicative of the fact that he was exhausted. He could barely pick up his feet. There were times where he fell because his one foot is just dragging and tripping into his other foot, and he's falling. You know what I mean? I think it's really that he was just fucking exhausted. It makes sense. His face is broken to bits, been shattered into 1,000 pieces. Shout out to I lifted that straight from Always Sunny. His face has been shattered into multiple pieces. His thumb, who knows, it doesn't even connect to the ball. He no longer even works. It's just in a place that doesn't move, and then it's the rest of the fingers that do the rest of the work. His back's been an issue all season. Two things you need to work on, Joe. You were in great shape this season, but now you've learned that there's another level of shape you need to get into to play these games. To play deep into the playoffs and to play games that matter, there is another level still of shape you need to get into. It probably benefits you to lose 10 pounds, I would think, 5 to 10 pounds-ish. You know what I mean? While still maintaining a musculature that is beneficial for you, but dropping some weight. Your legs are very heavy as a heavy bottom. You know what I mean? Like, shout out, he's like an apple bottom girl. Probably behoove you to lose 5 to 10 pounds just to help your back, help take some pressure off your knees, and help you later on in the season. And 2, you're going to have to become a better leader. All the leadership shit you did this season was all great. It was all well and good. But there was always a piece of me that said, this doesn't matter, though, in November and December. The leadership, November, December, January, that's all cool. That's all well and good. It definitely builds a good place. But there's a different level of leadership that you need in Game 7 or Game 6 of a playoff series when it's time to show up and your team needs direction. That's the time. And Jason Williams on his morning show today said, this is why I don't think centers can be the leaders of a team because they can't get the ball. That's not fucking – it's one of the most lazy takes ever that just disputes – completely removes Joker out of the picture, guys like Giannis out of the picture. Giannis will bring the ball up, Joker brings the ball up. But the idea that, Tim Duncan wasn't a great leader because he was a big man doesn't even make sense. It's not logical. Some of this is personality because all the players that I've just mentioned had teams that had the personalities that were the right personalities who knew exactly what it was. Timmy is our guy. We follow him. We have a team here built that does not know that. James doesn't know that. He hasn't figured it out. He hasn't gotten the memo that he is trash. Toby hasn't gotten the memo that he has pajamas on to game fucking 6. Here's the thing. I don't care about your outfit. I'm going to be real with you. When Russell Westbrook, James Harden, in their primes, especially LeBron, whatever, when they show up with weird outfits, I don't give a fuck because they are the greats of the game. They can wear whatever the fuck they want. But when you're Tobias Harris, you're an average basketball player, you show up with sweatpants. I want to believe that you fucking are trying. Not that you spent time of an elimination game today like, what am I going to wear? I'm going to wear these silk pajamas because I'm smooth with it. You're not smooth with it at all. Yeah, it's dark. Doc, you need to stop getting snippy. I'm just be real. I'm going to keep it a buck with you. You got to stop getting snippy with me. I know you don't like Howard Eskin. Nobody likes Howard Eskin. No one here in the city of Philadelphia. Spike Eskin doesn't like Howard Eskin, I'm sure. That's his son. And I don't like Spike either. So if he likes Howard, fuck him too. Fuck the Eskins as a record label, as a whatever, and as a motherfucking crew. And if you down with the Eskins, then fuck you too. Anyway, you need to stop getting snippy. You haven't earned it. I know you think you've earned it, but you actually have not earned it. Because you got one championship you've been resting your laurels on, and after that, every disappointing playoff series that we leave the playoffs with has come from you and your squad. Your team is always the most disappointing way that someone could possibly lose a playoff series. This Heat team wasn't better than us. What did that mean? Did you mean that they played as a team better than us, that they're coached better than us? Sure, you're right. But are they more talented than us? I don't know about that. We have the best player in the league. I mean, the best player in the series. One of the best players in the league, so I don't fucking buy that. I don't buy that, but that is part of the problem. That narrative, the idea that Joker was on such a team that was so much worse than the Sixers. I get it. It seems that way. Sure, but that's completely ignoring the fact that when you have team players that might be quote-unquote better, whatever better means here, which is completely relative, it doesn't always mean that they are a better team. All right, because Tobias might be a better player than the second best player supposedly on the Nuggets, but he is just not good in a team setting because he requires extra work to get into a fucking offense that isn't efficient. He played great in the first few weeks of the playoffs. Why? Because he was catching and going, no thinking. But as soon as he thinks he's going to isolate somebody, everything goes left. It's awful. James sounds like a good player, has all the bells and whistles, the money, the name, all of it. But when you watch him, where's the talent? He is helping you lose games. Before we traded for James, I actually thought that team could probably beat the Heat. This team with James, the soul was gone. There is no fucking heart here, and James is the one who took it. He ripped it out of our fucking chest right in front of our eyes while we were screaming, fuck Ben Simmons, while we were screaming that at Ben, while we were chanting it in the crowd, getting blown out by the Nets. There was James, soulless, on the fucking floor with a Sixers uniform on, and you didn't notice that he was ruining us the whole fucking time. Daryl, this is your fault. You traded Ben, whatever. You traded Seth, you traded Andre, and a fucking host of draft picks for him because you love him so. And now we're believing that the rumors from last summer did not exist. The rumors of DeJounte possibly, of Darius Garland possibly. But here goes Daryl asking the fucking Cavs for Darius, for Evan Mobley, for all of the young guys. We're asking fucking, who knows what we asked. I don't know if we asked the Spurs for anything. But if you're telling me that we could have traded Ben, Matisse, and draft picks to get back DeJounte and Keldon Johnson, and we didn't do it because Daryl was so goddamn in love with James Harden, I'll fucking snap. Daryl, you're not good at your job. Fuck you. All that bullshit that you're peddling out there, I don't believe it. I'm sorry. Fuck your numbers. Fuck your stats. I believe in numbers and I believe in stats, but more than that, I believe in personalities, and I believe that people need to mesh. All of that shit don't matter. If you don't have people who can mesh together on a team, none of those numbers will do anything for you. All right, you're going to rest on the fact that we lost to the 1 seed, that these guys had only been together half a season, blah, 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 blah. My eyes tell me everything I need to know. They told me everything I needed to know. To be clear, this team was ruined well before Daryl. And I'm not even going to jump into Markel and Ben. Because Ben coming out of college was supposed to be Magic Johnson. Markel coming out of college was supposed to be Tracy McGrady. That was the shit coming out, but when they were coming out of college. And now we're reimagining history to fit a narrative that doesn't exist. Those two guys were supposed to be great coming out of college. So I'm not going to jump into that. But the fact that we traded Mikal Bridges to get fucking the peanut allergy, Zaire Smith, who, for those of you who don't know, may not have known this, as he was dying from his peanut allergy, he also had, for some unknown reason, changed his jump shot too. Who knows why he did that? And now he's out of the league. Poor guy. All these draft picks that have been misses, the contracts we've given out, misses. Al Horford, awful contract. Jimmy, let's talk about this. For the final time, I'm going to say this on my podcast, Jimmy did not want to be here. The rumors of Jimmy going to the Heat started when he was on the Bulls with Dwayne Wade. Dwayne Wade, the Benedict Arnold of the NBA, who now is on the ownership team of the Jazz. And the rumors have started that the Jazz, that Donovan Mitchell might go to the Heat. Why? Because Dwayne Wade, if he comes to your team, is going to tell your best player to go to Miami. Told Jimmy while he was on the Bulls, the Heat would love you. The rumor started then. Then he ended up on the Timberwolves. Then he ended up with us. The whole time in the backdrop, he was going to end up on the Heat. And then last night, they picked Tobias over me. No, actually, we paid Al Horford instead of paying you. But what really happened was you wanted to go to the Heat no matter what. You were going to turn us down, but you wanted to make believe that that wasn't the case. The fact is we didn't want to give you 5 years. It still remains to be seen if that was the right decision. And the fact is, just because you played well this series, and you did, you played great this series, I'm going to give you credit. You are injured all the time. You have been up and down the last 2 years. People have not been talking about the Heat because you ain't really been playing that well all season and you've been injured most of the season. But now, because you played great in the playoffs, when it counts, for what it matters, for what it worth, this is when it counts. We couldn't depend on you. That was the truth. That's why we didn't want to give you 5 years, because you were injured all the time. We already had somebody, one of the best players possibly in the NBA, who was injured all the time in Joel. We didn't know what that was going to look like. We placed our chips in Ben. It didn't work out. We didn't pick Tobias over you. We picked Ben over you, and that was the mistake. But really, we didn't pick anyone over you because you weren't going to fucking stay here. Stop this narrative. It's a lie. It's bullshit. They're reinventing history. Go do your research. What's the American way to reinvent history? Tell a different story than what actually happened. Jimmy played great. I'm gonna give it up to him. I hate Jimmy. If there's anyone who the closest that I can hate somebody personally is Kevin Durant and Jimmy Butler. Jimmy is number one, Kevin is two, but it's not, but it's more basketball I hate. But if you ask me the closest person I personally hate, it's those two guys. Jimmy played great though. I can pay that respect. Kevin Durant's incredible. Scares the fuck out of me on a daily basis as a basketball player. Jimmy played great. Dominated us. Just crushed us. Took our heart. We didn't have anyone that could stand up to that. As Joel looked, there were times in this series where Joel looked like he just was still concussed. Honestly, I'll be honest with you. Just looked like he still may be having a concussion. Again, with face broken to bits. Who knows? You know what I mean? I just listen. Joel didn't play great yesterday, but I'll leave it with this. There was I was talking to Fred, the homie Fred. Shout out to him yesterday. And I did get frustrated at one point talking to Fred, and he may have sensed my frustration, but, I brought it back. I brought it back down, calmed down, simmered out. But the thing is and actually it wasn't really Fred's fault. This is the fault of everyone else, more so it just came out in my conversation with Fred. Just that the idea that, you have pundits and all these people that are like, Joel needs to get into the post. Joel needs to do this. It all sounds good. It all sounds good. Okay? It all sounds good. But I want you to watch the game, freeze a play, look at the floor, and then explain to me logically how he's going to do those things. When you say, at the point when I kind of got frustrated, the homie Fred said, I would spread the floor out, and when they try to front Joel, go over the top, it sounds good. But watch. One, we don't have a player who can throw an entry pass over the top to him. But the other part of that is when it happens, P.J. Tucker is already behind him, ready to absorb an offensive foul or ready to get a steal, one or the other. But they always have 2 or 3 guys bracketing Joe. Joe tries to do something, there is a wall of 3 people. You know why? Because they don't respect anybody on the floor. They're not afraid of James. They're not afraid of Toby. And this is what happens when you have players that don't move off the ball, essentially. But this is when they talk about that the heliocentric offense becomes easy to defend. It's because when you have one guy who's dribbling the entire time, typically the other 4 guys, no one's moving. No one's moving. And when no one's moving, there's nothing to do. And because you know where the ball is, you don't really have to do much. You can just be in the zone. So even if people are moving, you have someone constantly covering them. But when you have the ball moving, and credit to the Heat, because this was really the point that punctuated the series. In the third quarter, beginning of the fourth quarter, as we were slowly dying, as the exhaustion was setting in, they began passing the ball more and more. The ball was moving more and more, 4 or 5 passes of possession, and that is just deflating you constantly. That much ball movement exhausts the defense. This is what happens when you don't move the ball. It's easy to defend. There was nothing. I have never seen someone get defended this way. And the thing is this is not because Joel is great. Part of it is, yeah, you're going to double team great players. But I've said this on previous podcasts too, especially before this season when Joel was a worse passer, worse with the ball. I had said multiple times, the truth of the matter is this. Teams are going to double team you because you're good. They're going to double and triple team you if they don't think you can pass the ball and if they think that you're prone to turnovers. So when they're triple teaming Joel in this situation, it's not because he can't pass the ball this season. It's because they're not worried about anybody else. It comes down to that. They're not worried about anybody else on the floor. Pass it. What's Tobias? He had silk pajamas on. What's he going to do? Maxey, you just square up on him. He can't break anybody down. James, he's flat-footed all game. There's nothing he's going to do. Matisse, leave him open. Leave him open. Don't matter. He can't. He don't make open layups. Gorgeous, the minivan, he got a flat tire. It's pathetic. We traded all of those assets for James. Crazy to think. It's a wild thing. I'm not here to talk. I'm not going to talk about Ben today. Maybe that'll be a later podcast down the road. I'm back, hopefully. So chalk it. Yeah, chalk it. It's over, and it's dark. It's dark and hell is hot. Rest in peace to DMX. It is dark and hell is hot. I do not know what the path forward is here. I do not know how we get better. We don't have draft picks. I do not know who the fuck wants Tobias Harris in that contract. Who the fuck wants James Harden? I know a lot of us, and me included, have said someone's going to pay James, but I'm starting to feel like who? Who would have watched last night's game and said, yeah, we want that guy for $50 million a year? He said he would take less money. What is less money? Like the production is less money for you. All right, so you can max out at 270 over 5 years, right? What's less money? 200 million? That's 70 million less. Respectfully, yeah, that's a lot less money, but you're not worth 200 million over 5 years either. 5 years, 150 million. Are you worth that after what I just saw in the playoffs? I don't know that you're worth that either. What is less money? 40 million less? Are you willing to take 4 years, 100 million? I don't think so. If that's what less is to you, sure, you can stay here. 5 years, 100 million. I'll give you that. Fine. It's still too much, but I can eat that. Oh, and everyone, real quick, because I know it's going to take off. Bradley Beal ain't the answer, guys. I'm going to just keep it 100 with you. I've been off Bradley Beal, and again, you haven't heard my podcast in a while. I haven't talked about him, but I've been questioning Bradley Beal since January, February. I don't think Bradley's the answer. Bradley would have shot more shots yesterday, but I don't think he would have played well anyway. I just don't think Bradley's the answer, guys. I'm going to keep it all the way 100 with you. I'd probably rather have Zach LaVine here if I'm being real, just because I think Zach has like a thing about him that there's a fire about Zach that I respect. But now Zach has knee problems. I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't know what the answer is. The answer was before we traded Ben for James. After, I don't know what the path forward is now. I don't know what you could trade James for. There's always the Kings, I guess. The Kings will always do some dumb shit. But if you could trade James to the Kings, what would you trade him for? What are you going to trade James for, to the Kings for? What are you going to get back? You going to get back De'Aaron Fox? Is he the answer? I mean, I'd rather see De'Aaron Fox than fucking James Harden. I'll tell you that. You know what I mean? Maybe that's the answer. I doubt it, though. Yeah. That's it, guys. Everybody, wash your hands. Stay safe. Black Lives Matter. Arrest the cops who killed Breonna Taylor. Stop Asian hate. Stop trans hate. The best thing that happened today is that Kendrick released an album. And then the second best thing is that on that album, he has a song with Ghostface, 2 of my top 5 rappers of all time. That was pretty cool to see. I guess I can find solace there. The quantum of it. Shout out to Daniel Craig. All right, everybody. You know the drill. Stay safe. Take care. See you around.
Yeah. Justice for the blind. Just something that'll find in the rhymes that are coming from my mind.